Okay. Well, it is 2 o'clock, so we will call to order our regular meeting of council. Hopefully our last meeting of council by Zoom, barring any changes in the COVID situation. Of course, we are intending to begin in-person council meetings in September. So looking forward to that. We'll start today by just recognizing that we are holding our meeting with most of us joining on the unceded territories of the Shuswap and Hupachessit First Nations. And we do have an agenda in front of us. Would somebody, or sorry, are there any late items to be added from councillors? Seeing none. Any late items from the city clerk?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, would somebody like to move approval of our agenda?
I'll move approval.
Moved by Councillor Poon. Seconded by Councillor Paulson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And we also have minutes from the special meeting held at 9:30 a.m. and the regular meeting held at 2 p.m. on July 26, 2021. Somebody like to move adoption?
Adoption.
Moved by Councillor Poon. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, carried. And that brings us to public input period, which is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions on topics of relevance to City Council. A maximum of 4 submissions will be accommodated and read out loud by the Director of Corporate Services. Twyla, have we received any input for today?
No submissions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move on then to delegations. We have just one delegation today from the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. We have Jody Frank, who is the Organics Diversion Coordinator, in attendance to provide council with an overview of the roadside organics and 3-stream cart collection program that is coming up very quick now. So we'll just get Jody on here. Wonderful. Welcome, Jody.
Hi.
So we are looking forward to your presentation, and I know many of us are very much looking forward, and many community members are looking forward to this program being implemented. So we will turn it over to you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with everyone about the upcoming Organics Diversion Program. I guess I'll start by just introducing myself again. So I'm Jody Frank. I'm the Organics Diversion Coordinator with the Regional District. So during today's presentation, I would just like to cover, the high level overview of the program coming to Port Alberni, why it's necessary, where we're at, and what you need to know in preparation for the launch of the new 3-stream waste service. So it's been just about a year since the last time I was able to speak with City Council, and we went over the scope of what the program could look like. So it's very exciting that a year later, we're just weeks away from kicking this off. So thanks again for having me here. Now, is my presentation up?
It's not yet.
No, okay. Twyla, am I sharing it or?
I believe you were wanting to share your presentation, correct?
Yeah.
We can if that helps.
I've got it here, so we're
Okay.
good. Okay, can you see the presentation, or are you looking at my notes?
We can't see anything yet.
No.
I wonder, does she need permission to share?
No, she should be okay. We can share it, Jody, if it's easy. Oh, there you go.
There we go.
Perfect. Sorry about that.
Wonderful. Jody, so I'm just going to mute myself. You can go ahead whenever you're ready, and then we will take questions at the end from council.
Great, thank you. Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. So the Regional District's Organics Diversion Program, we've split it up basically into 3 phases. So it's very exciting that the City of Port Alberni is sort of the model for this program, and will sort of be the model going forward with phase 2 and 3. So right now we're in phase 1, City of Port Alberni. Phase 2 will look at West Coast communities, and then we'll move to phase 3, which will look at the electoral areas in the Alberni Valley and options for those communities as well as Bamfield. So phase 1, City of Port Alberni, the scope of this program really looks at all single family households, so dwellings of 3 or less residents. And it also includes, so not only does it include the organics diversion program, but we've also done some really significant improvements to the landfill to prepare for this service. So if you've been out there recently, you'll see it's looking very nice. They've done some great upgrades to make the new city trucks, they'll be able to dump nice and efficiently. So everything's set up there with expanded public diversion areas as well. So as we move into, the why are we doing organics diversion, and how does it all fit together? Now, I believe you've seen this infographic before, but it's a really important piece to sort of tie it all together. When we look at waste composition, and the studies we've done at our landfill, as well as looking at other municipalities, we know that there's about 30% of waste going to the landfill that could be diverted, and that's organic material. So about 30% of that can be diverted, which is the importance for this program. So right now we're sitting at that 20% diversion rate. We really want to achieve that 50%. In order to do that, we need to tackle the organics. It's a valuable resource, black gold, which can be turned into compost. So moving on to goal 2, not only will it increase our diversion rate, but when we look at our waste generated per person per year, we're sitting at 589 kilograms per person. We really want to get that down. The regional district has set a target of 400 kgs per person, and the province has a target of 350. Moving to this curbside compost pickup program will also put us with the 80% of municipalities in BC that currently have this curbside collection program. So there's 20% of BC populations that don't have this yet. So we're moving towards that 80%, which is nice to be on that side. So not only will we reduce waste generated per person, but when we look at our landfill and its lifespan, we have the option here to add another 35 to 40 years to our landfill. Living on an island, we can't just go dig up another landfill. Other options are going to mean we have to ship waste to the mainland potentially, which other communities are currently doing, and it's a costly option. And then we move to that goal 4, which is reducing those greenhouse gases. The province will, once we get to a certain threshold, the province can regulate us to put in a gas capture system, which again is a very, very costly option, which we would like to avoid, obviously. So moving on to some of the work that we've been doing throughout the last year. Extensive work has gone in to prepare for the service, like I mentioned, the upgrades to the landfill, as well as we've created a Sort and Go brand that gives this new service a visual identity, which I think is really important. And you'll see this pop up more and more. The garbage trucks will soon be logoed with this brand, and it just gives it that visual consistency, which is important. So project brand is really important. We've partnered with local suppliers. So Earthland and Sea, which is a local compost processor here in the Alberni Valley, will be responsible for processing the curbside material. And then Rollins Machinery, which is a local island-based company, has provided us the contract with the carts. So it's great being able to partner with some local businesses here. We've also created our Let's Connect ACRD.ca. So this is our online portal hub where all of our project related information is kept. And then we have links on the City of Port Alberni page, as well as the ACRD linking it to that portal. So things like videos, timelines, all sorts of information, frequently asked questions, and it gives residents a way to ask us questions and create forums so that we can provide responses so everybody can see. We continue to do various press releases. So depending on the work that's underway, we've created various press releases for that. We continue to do presentations and info sessions with community groups. So such as the literacy group, Rotary clubs. We've been limited with schools, but we will continue to do info sessions. Our education coordinator, Anna, you might have seen her. She's been in front of City Hall during tax season, and she continues to go to farmers markets. We have done sessions with retailers to get them educated on what products they have in their stores that can help. And we've set up info booths there as well. We have another one coming up next week. You'll see Anna at the fall fair. And so we'll continue that education component just to make sure that residents are aware that the service is coming, and it just gives them an outlet to ask any questions. We also have static displays set up at various locations, city facilities, our recycling depots, landfill, and various other spots as well. So as we move on to the service kickoff, we'll continue with those press releases. We've got different radio adverts on at the moment. We'll continue with our social media campaigns. Again, those info sessions. And then as you may have received, the welcome package. So this is that green kitchen buddy. So this helps residents with their kitchen scraps to capture them within their kitchen spaces with a bit of a sorting guide on the front that's been hot stamped. We've created program material, so it has a sorting guide, cart placement information, frequently asked questions. It's basically a nice resource to equip residents with all of the bits of information they need to succeed with the program. As we continue, and we are past the launch, carts are at residents. They're now using the service. The first couple of weeks when we go to launch our City of Port Alberni operations, we've got what we're calling swampers. So they're going to go ahead of the collection trucks and help identify cart placement issues that might occur if they're not spaced out at quite a meter, so that the arm can get in there. So they'll be out there with educational tags to let residents know that they might need to space the carts out a little differently, or the wrong cart might have been out for collection. So we'll be able to educate them with some very visually pleasing cart tags we've created. As we continue, about the 6-week period, we'll be doing visual audits as well. So Anna and her crew will be out there just identifying simple items that might be in carts that are contaminants. So things that are in recycling that shouldn't be, or vice versa in organics. Then we've got tags created for those just to highlight some common mistakes that might occur, just to help educate residents. We're also doing composition audits. So we've picked routes from the various collection zones. So we operate Monday to Thursday, and there's 4 zones in each quadrant. We've picked residents, about 100 households in total, which we will do composition waste audits as well, which will help identify how we're tracking with diversion, the composition, and again, items that are common contaminants that we can create education campaigns around for the public. We'll continue to do community and school presentations, follow up with those social media campaigns, and our news articles and radio ads as well as we move forward. So moving forward to some of the additional tools and benefits. So you're aware, I believe, that we've got an onboard technology that can read RFID tags. So the new carts will have a RFID scanner that will be able to link the cart to a resident. So if we're experiencing some trouble areas where contaminants are frequently happening, we can have our education coordinator potentially do some education sessions. And then also there's letters and various other tools that the technology will be able to provide. It also lets us know how many times people are putting out carts, what carts they're putting out, what our set out rate is. So there's all sorts of information and data that we'll be able to get from this new onboard technology. Compost for the community. So as part of our contract, Earth NC has agreed to give us 10% of what's collected in a year, so we can use for city parks, community gardens. We'll have that compost available for the city. So next steps. So launch of service, first collection day with the new system will begin September 13th. Delivery of carts will be happening within the next couple of weeks. So we're looking mid-August. We've got a contractor that it will be in charge of the deployment of the new carts and the welcome packages. And then we'll continue that community education that we've already started, and it will continue onwards. We've just created an extensive education strategy that looks at our 3 streams of waste and how we can educate the community and the various tactics that we're going to use to achieve that. And then those composition audits will kick off later in the fall. So as of the 13th, organics will now be collected weekly, and then waste and recycling will alternate on a bi-weekly basis. And so residents, if your recycling day will basically stay the same. So if it was to happen today, so it would be organics and recycling, and then the following week would be your organics and garbage. So we're hoping that that will be a smooth transition. And we've got various tools out there to help people stay in the know with Sort and Go. So we have our ACRD Sort and Go app. So this allows residents to download collection calendars, sign up for alerts. So just to keep you on track with what collection frequency it is, all you have to do is download the app, put in your address, and it will send you reminders every week on what the collection frequency is. It also has a waste wizard. So if you're not sure what goes in what cart, you just put the item in and it will give you all the disposal options. So the cart or recycling depot. The Let's Connect ACRD platform. So that will continue to be our platform for updating information. And we'll continue to promote that through our radio ads and newspaper articles as well. So with that being said, I have a video here that I'm not sure if you've seen, but this is a great sort of overview of the program and what's coming to Port Alberni. And then after that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Jody, this is Jeff Pellick. I think you might need to actually check the box to share out your computer audio when you're playing a video.
Okay, thank you for that.
No sound is currently coming through.
Okay. I'm just looking for that box, sorry.
It comes up after you click on share screen, and then
Okay.
you choose your application, and it's a little tiny box in the bottom left corner, share audio.
Okay, try this again, sorry.
This summer, the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District is introducing a new organics pickup and auto cart system for City of Port Alberni residents. This new service will collect organics, such as food and yard waste, and divert it from the landfill to a facility where it will be turned into nutrient-rich compost. This will help extend the life of our landfill and reduce our impact on the environment. The new system will mean changes to how residents sort garbage and how it's placed at the roadside for collection. Here's what you need to know. A new automated collection system means equipment on trucks will pick up and empty carts, rather than crews manually doing it. Residents will receive new carts that will work with the automated system, a green cart for organics and blue cart for recycling. These will be like the garbage carts that are currently used, only bigger. Put all food scraps, including meat, bones, dairy, and greases, in the green cart, along with soiled paper such as paper towels and pizza boxes. Yard waste, like grass clippings, tree trimmings, and garden waste, can go in the green cart too. Each home will be provided a small kitchen buddy to collect organics inside. Liners are not required, and plastic bags, even those labeled compostable, cannot be used or placed in the organics cart. For those who'd like to have a liner, paper bags, cardboard, or newspaper can be used as a liner for your cart or kitchen buddy. All recycling that is currently collected roadside will still be collected, just using the new blue cart. Continue to make sure materials are placed loose in the carts and not tied up in bags. Items such as hazardous materials, plastic bags, overwrap, and foam packaging cannot be disposed of in your recycling cart. Excess material placed outside of the cart will not be collected. Please continue to take these materials along with excess cardboard to the Recycle BC depots for disposal. Organics will be picked up every week, while garbage and recycling will be collected on alternating weeks. That means 1 week, green and black carts, and the next week, green and blue. Place carts at 1 meter distance apart at the roadside, and make sure all of your items fit inside. No overflow. Organics carts will have bear-proof clips on them that will need to be undone when put at the roadside. This will allow the auto collection trucks to safely and efficiently pick up your bins. And remember, to avoid wildlife interactions, carts are not permitted at the roadside until 7 a.m. You can keep track of the pickup schedule, get weekly reminders, and learn how to dispose of specific items with the Sort and Go ACRD app. With your help, the new organics pickup and auto cart system will help reduce the amount of waste going to our landfill, reduce greenhouse gases, and keep our region clean. To learn more, visit www.letsconnectacrd.ca/organics.
Okay, thank you so much, Jody. And great to see that video. I think that's got all the information we need in a very watchable way. So hopefully that will end up shared widely on social media, as it's a great tool for people to learn what's coming. Are there questions of Jody from Council? Councillor Poon and then Councillor Haggard.
Thank you for the presentation. For those who don't use internet and all that, is there a paper copy available?
Of the video? Sorry, you're cutting out on me.
No, not of the schedules and of the instructions on how to use.
Yeah, so when residents get the cart, the program guide has a lot of that information. With regard to the collection calendar, so we've advised that people can call either the City of Port Alberni office or the ACRD, and we can print and mail them out to residents. But rather than printing out a whole bunch, we are hoping we could kind of try and approach the paperless option, and then people that need them on a as needed basis, we can make them available.
Great. Okay, thank you, Councillor Haggard.
Madam Mayor, thank you so much for coming here today, Jody, and talking about this new system. I wonder if you could just touch briefly on what the other alternatives were, because there's been some concern in the community about the raise in prices, but really if you could just very briefly explain why this was the most affordable option for us to go this route.
Absolutely. So one significant piece I didn't touch on is that the ACRD recently received $6 million fund from the Strategic Priorities Fund. And a lot of that is going to the upfront costs that other municipalities don't necessarily have. So there are other options like, the landfill gas capture system. So if we don't pull these organics out, we'd have to put in a significant piece of infrastructure that is millions and millions of dollars. So that would be a taxpayer's, that would be something that they would have to fund basically. But with this grant, it's covering the cost of the carts and various other program related upfront costs. So although we need it for all 3 phases, there's a significant amount that's going towards funding this program. As well, I mentioned the life of the landfill. So my slide, I believe it was 66 years until we've reached capacity. Once we've reached that capacity, we will most likely have to ship waste to the mainland, which is also a very expensive way of getting rid of our waste. So this collection system, which is on trend with most other municipalities in BC and throughout Canada, it's the best way to sort of make that initial change without having to do those other things like shipping waste away or significant infrastructure to control the methane and the greenhouse gases.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. And at our last council meeting, when we did the first couple readings of the new bylaw, we learned that the cost increase is about $4 a month per household over what we've actually been paying at the end of the day for our garbage services, and that we're still the second lowest cost provider of these services on Vancouver Island. So it's a very competitive price that we're able to get for the people of Port Alberni. And I think that's largely due to receiving the grant and just a great system that's been put together. So I've had a lot of people really excited to be receiving, to be finally getting this program. So happy to be hearing that feedback in the public. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Jody. It's very informative, and like the mayor, I'm very excited about this. Our organic cart, the big organic cart, is it allowed to put like those yard waste bags that you see, the big huge ones, the big cart, as long as it's still paper to line it with, so you don't have that goop in there all the time? And
absolutely.
Second question. The kitchen buddies, you do not want any kind of, even if it says it's compostable plastic, you'd rather it be lined with newspaper or something like that?
That's correct. So research from other municipalities have shown that those compostable plastic bags can be quite a troublesome issue. The quality of compostable plastic varies so much. So to be certified, they only have to break down 80%, leaving 20% of what isn't broken down in your compost. So, if you're putting compost on your garden and there's bits of plastic material, that's not really ideal. As well as there's an educational component and some confusion around a compostable bag versus a plastic bag. And once we start getting plastic bags in the compost and it goes to the processor, fees could increase because of contamination. And then it just becomes a very troublesome issue. Our sister community in Comox has a processing system similar to what we're using. And the compostable plastics were definitely a problem area there.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. Other questions from
What about the big yard waste?
Yes, so those are absolutely acceptable in the program. They're paper-based paper fiber. And then with the welcome package, we've provided the smaller size that fit within your kitchen buddy to line that. But the yard waste bags are definitely an option.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Paulson.
Just wanted to comment while we were talking, this electronically challenged counselor actually went on and downloaded the app, and it was easy peasy. Yep, just I encourage everybody to do it now, and it actually has the current schedules in it as well. Yeah. So boy, I've just become a whole bunch smarter while I've been sitting here.
And I'll just mention the top of the carts. So when you get your new carts, it actually has a QR code, so you can put your phone up to it, and it'll automatically just look it up, and it's on your phone.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming and providing the information. I am very much looking forward to this service. And yeah, just really thrilled that you guys have made it so simple. So appreciate all the thought that's gone into this, into the QR code and everything else with it is just fantastic. So thanks very much for presenting today.
Great. Thanks for having me, everybody.
Okay, we will move on. We have no unfinished business, so we'll go to staff reports. The first item is accounts. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the certification of the Director of Finance dated August 9, 2021 be received, and checks numbering 148869 to 148975, inclusive and payments of accounts totaling $4,319,613.01 be approved. And before I get a seconder, I've asked our Director of Finance to explain where we spent all that money this time.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So to Councillor Washington's mention there, at this time of year, we normally pass on our tax requisition for other governments. So the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District, the Alberni Hospital District, and the BC Assessment. And that accounted for about 51% of that for 4.3 million. And then we also have the RCMP contract, which is quarterly, which occurred in this payment time frame, and that was another 34% of this payment. So 85% of those expenditures in this approval is all associated with those 4 occurrences.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate that explanation. Could we have a seconder?
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Poon, and seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll move on to item number 2, the RCMP department report. Thank you. And I think we have Sergeant Weeb on today.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you for having me. Inspector Rochette's away today, so he asked me to step in and go over the second quarter's reports with you. Boy, it looks like I'm a long ways away from the camera. Can you all see me?
We can see you. Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
So we'll just start right at the top of the report here that you believe have in front of you. Overall calls for service for this quarter. They're up a little bit from 2020. But then 2020, as we could all agree, was a very unique year. And I'm going to say this a couple times, that the stats for 2020 are low in various reasons, in my opinion, due to the pandemic. So if you go back to 2019, the total calls for service were actually a little lower for 2021 when compared to 2019. But like I said, 2020 was an unusual year. Violent crime, 2021, it was 135 calls for service as opposed to 103 last year. Then again, if you bounce back to 2019, it was 127, so roughly the same. Property crime is down compared to 2020, or up compared to 2020, sorry, but down substantially compared to the second quarter for 2019. Other criminal code offenses are pretty much the same across the board. They're up a little bit from last year, and then up about 19 from 2019. Drug offenses, again, about the same. And total criminal code, comparable to 2020, 20, again, we are up, but once again, down compared to 2019. And then our violent crimes, again, up compared to 2020, but bang on the same when it comes to 2019. Again, like I said, I keep bouncing back to 2019 just because 2020 was such a unique year. Assault with a weapon or bodily harm, about the same for 2020 and then up from 2019. Harassment from, again, compared to 2019, roughly the same, but again, up from 2020. And robberies, again, are up substantially from 2020, but not so much from 2019. And then, as you can see there, sex offenses are down quite a bit from 2019 and up a little from 2020. Domestic violence is up quite a bit, as you can see from 2020 and 2019. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion on that. And my opinion on that is I don't think the violence has increased. What I think has increased is the hard work of our domestic violence unit, and our frontline police officers are really encouraging people to come out and report this to the police. And I think less and less people are keeping this behind closed doors, which obviously increases the stats. So that's a good thing that we're getting these more reports. People shouldn't be afraid to report this because we want these people, these victims, to get help. Auto theft, that's up substantially from 2020 and 2019. My explanation and theory on that is auto theft falls into, if we recover a stolen auto from, let's say, Nanaimo, that falls in that category as well. And that did happen, I can recall about 4 times this year in this quarter where a vehicle was stolen from another community, such as Nanaimo, and then dumped here, and then that increases our stats. Bike thefts remain about the same. B&Es to businesses, they're down substantially from 2019 and bang on the same for 2020. Residence B&Es are also down from 2019. 2020, again, I think they were quite low because everybody was at home. It's tough to break into a house when everybody's at home. So that's my opinion there. And other break and enters are down from 2019 again, but again, compared to 2020, they're up. Mischief to property, compared it to 2019, that's bang on the same, and we're down a little bit from 2020. Thefts were, like I said, comparable to 2019, the same. 2020 again was low, and we're up about 20 on 27 on for this quarter for 2021. Stolen property again comparable to 2019, but up from 2020. Shoplifting's down, which is surprising. I would have expected to see that a little lower in 2020 just due to the CERB money that was out there. But there's also still CERB money out there, is my understanding. So people have a little more money, which is, I think, could be why that is down. Theft from vehicle, that is down a lot. And I believe that is simply people are locking their doors. If you lock your car doors, the odds of somebody smashing your car window to get in there and find your 2 toonies is very low, unless you've got you know, a stack full of Apple laptops on your front seat. Then they might want to break your window and get in there and get their hands on that. Cause disturbances are about the same for 2020. Breach probation and breach of bail, breach probation is comparable for the 19 and 20 years. Breach of bail is up a little bit for 2021. Since COVID, courts have been really reluctant to hold anybody in custody. And I'm not speaking poorly of the court system or the judicial system, but more people get bail than used to before. More people get bail. There's likely a chance that more of these people are going to breach those conditions, and which would increase the stats. In talks in public is about the same for 2020 and dramatically lower than 2019. And so that's the stats for the second quarter. A couple other things I just wanted to bring to your attention. The Fairy Creek protests, which I'm sure everybody has heard about. We as the organization had a lot of support from the Lower Mainland for the Fairy Creek protests. Our Lower Mainland resources have now been completely removed from Fairy Creek and have been redeployed to the fires in the interior. So Island District is responsible now for the Fairy Creek protest, which is putting on a lot of pressure on resources. It's tough to manage, and everybody's being stretched thin. And just a couple things. I'm sure you've heard about some arsons we had in the second quarter there. There were 2 adults linked to 3 fires. They were arrested and they remain in custody, and our arsons have now really went down a lot. We did have one on Thursday night, but again, we're not. I'm just talking about the second quarter here. There was a second one near the field house in the second quarter. We have numerous youths linked to that, and it's likely going to go by way of a restorative justice, just due to their age, and hopefully we can educate them on making better decisions. And I'll just talk about a little bit more about the second quarter stats on how certain individuals can really be a drain on the resources. One individual was responsible for 57 files in the second quarter, so 57 complaints to the police. That's for one individual. He was finally committed enough offenses where he was remanded in custody, and he since then he's not getting out, which will decrease our calls for service. But that's a lot for one person in the community. And the second example I have of that same thing is another gentleman, and in that second quarter, that gentleman was responsible for 28 calls for service for the police. But eventually he did go into custody and remained there until getting out just recently here. So I expect that this gentleman's name will start surfacing a lot again, which is a drain on the resources. But I just wanted to give those 2 examples to you, just to show how much one person can really create a lot of work for us in the community. And that's all I have for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sergeant Weeb, for this report. Council, are there questions? Councillor Corbeil, and then Councillor Haggard and Paulson.
Sergeant Weeb, one number I didn't hear was the crime severity index. And I read with interest, our friends in Victoria now have one of the highest crime severity indexes in the province. What would the crime severity index be in Port Alberni? Do you know?
I don't have the figure in front of me, but I did see it. If I remember correctly, we went down I think from 19 to 27. So don't quote me on those numbers, but I know we did go down. It wasn't a lot, but it was down. Now, with what has happened in 2021, I expect that to go up next year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haggard, and then Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for talking about, the reasoning behind a lot of these numbers. And I found it very interesting how 2 individuals can really cause a lot of these offenses. But my question sort of relating to that is there certain pockets in the community in Port Alberni where you do get a lot of calls for service as well?
You just broke up at the last part there.
Is there certain parts of the community where you happen to get a lot of calls for service, like certain areas of the community or a certain place in the community, or, where you do get a lot of calls?
Yes, and an example of that is there's a property in Fort we'll talk about. We get lots of calls for service there, but we also will have our crime reduction unit focus on that. If there's people with warrants, for example, we'll focus on that area and try and get them picked up. It's absolutely amazing how one prolific offender can create so much crime in a community. And it's not just Port Alberni, it's everywhere. Every detachment now has a prolific offender team or a crime reduction unit, and they're basically told, okay, you go here and focus on 123 Main Street, and you're looking for John and Harry Smith who might have warrants. So yeah, there is a Fourth Avenue gives us some grief. Yes.
Great. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Councillor Paulson.
Yeah, I just, once again, following up on the prolific offenders or the repeat offenders. And I think we talked about this before in a couple of our RCMP reports through the court systems. Can they not put a do not, for lack of a better word, do not enter stipulation on repeat offenders? Like, don't come back to our community. I realize it's just putting it off on somebody else, but you know what? I'm selfish. Better somewhere else than here. So I'm just wondering if that might be a remedy of some sort, but and I don't know what your experience has been.
Well, excellent question, Councillor Paulson. Yes, that can happen. Courts can place no-go Port Alberni conditions on certain individuals. It's more successful though if they don't have ties to the community. So, for example, if somebody grew up here and spent 35, 40 years here and all their families here, getting them on a no-go Port Alberni would be extremely difficult. But if the person has absolutely no connections or no ties to Port Alberni, we can do that and the courts can do that. And I think I'm just thinking of one individual that did do that recently because this person had no ties to the community and we were successful. And the person never left and ended up being arrested and went to jail. So.
Thank you. Any other comments from councillors? Okay, well, just wanted to thank you for being here today and also just pass along thanks for how quickly the fire setting case was responded to. I know that the fires that were happening in the community, of course, being a drain on our local fire department, but were a big concern for people in the community as well. So really appreciated how quickly you guys worked on that and were able to find a couple of the people who were setting fires and improve that issue for our community. As we know, this time of year, it's certainly on people's mind, but puts our community at huge risk. So thanks on behalf of council for that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, council, would somebody like to move receipt of the report?
So moved.
I'll move receipt of the report.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Corbeil, seconded by Councillor Poon. All in favor? Carried. And we'll move on to item number 3 from the Director of Engineering and Public Works. We have the BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant and the City of Port Alberni funding application. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are bringing this report to council proposing a grant application for a 1.5 meter wide separated path along Beaver Creek Road. This is a great opportunity for a partnership between the Hoopachesset and the city to build a separated path between Compton and Ahaswinnis Way, utilizing grant funding. The City Active Transportation Plan supports this project as the plan highlights Beaver Creek as one of the primary routes for getting into the city and considering access beyond, as well as in this particular location nearby parks, residential areas, schools, and commercial areas. This project constitutes a 2-phase project, with this being phase 1. The completion of both phases would then have multimodal access from all the way from Highway 4 up to the city boundary at Compton. The phase 1 total cost is $192,800 and is available for up to 80% funding for grants. So the city share would be 20% or $38,560. As this project was actually first looked at in 2017, I believe was the year, and budgeted for, there is still available budget in the amount of $78,544.02, from which we can pay our portion of this project. So at this time, with the funding already in place, we are actually just asking council support for the grant application. If there are any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any questions? Okay, Councillor Haggard, question, and then if you'd like to read the motion, you're welcome to.
Thank you very much. I know the city is in talks with the province about improving the intersection at River Road and Beaver Creek. So this pathway, it won't interfere with that, whatever work we decide to eventually do or plans that we make. It's far enough down Beaver Creek Road that it won't interfere.
No, exactly. And This is really, I would say, our only option in this particular location. But with the designs that the ministry are doing, and we're coordinating with them, so we have all the way from Ahaswinnis Way down to Highway 4 to coordinate how we combine those two. And coming from Highway 4 right now, there's sidewalk on both sides of the road, so it gives us flexibility on what our options are.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Would you like to read the motion?
I absolutely would, thank you. I'd like to move that the City of Port Alberni Council authorize staff to apply for funding through the BC Active Transportation Infrastructure Grant Program for the Beaver Creek Path Project, a joint project between the City of Port Alberni and Hoopacheset First Nations at a total estimated project cost of $192,800. And further, that council also confirms the following. Funding for the Beaver Creek Path project is available and supported by council. The project is a municipal priority and therefore shovel ready, and the city will complete the project by the stipulated deadline of March 2023.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Are there any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, carried. Excellent. And moving on to item 4 from the Director of Corporate Services, we have voting delegate and alternates for the Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia. Wyla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the City of Port Alberni became members of the Municipal Insurance Association back in January of this year. MIABC is a member-owned and operated and contributes to the financial security of local governments. In accordance with Article 613 of this Reciprocal Insurance Exchange Agreement, which the city signed, each subscriber is required to appoint by resolution of council a representative and 2 alternatives to represent and vote the interests of the subscriber. So this report includes a staff recommendation where it looks to council to appoint a voting delegate and 2 alternates.
Thank you. Before we go to comments from council, I haven't heard from anyone specifically on this yet, but I had wondered, Councillor Solda, if you've been involved in MIABC before.
No, not with MIA. I was never on that committee in the past, but I'm interested.
Okay. I just thought of kind of your work with UBCM over the years in the past, and so that was kind of my thought. And so we need 1 appointee and then 2 alternates, so room for 3 people here. Councillor Poon.
Thank you. I would like to express my interest in being one of the, I guess, either the appointee or the delegate or sort of the alternate.
Oh, cut out. We can't hear you anymore. Okay, thank you. So Councillor Solda.
What's that? I didn't say anything more than that.
Okay, thank you. Any other interest in this one? Councillor Haggard.
I'm happy to let my name stand as an alternate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm wondering then if council would support Councillor Solda as the appointee with Councillor Poon and Councillor Haggard as the alternates.
I second that motion.
Excellent. And I guess we should probably read out the full motion here since they require the resolution. So I will move that council appoints Councillor Solda as the City of Port Alberni voting delegate to the Municipal Insurance Association of British Columbia, MIABC, meetings of subscribers in order to meet the requirements of Article 6.13 of the reciprocal agreement between the City of Port Alberni and the MIABC, and further that council appoints Councillor Poon and Councillor Haggard, Councillor Poon as the first alternate voting delegate and Councillor Haggard as the second alternate voting delegate to attend meetings and vote in absence of the voting delegate. Is there, do you second that, Councillor Corbeil?
I most assuredly do.
Wonderful, thank you. Is there any more comments on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And thanks to all 3 of you for taking that role on. We'll move on to item number 5 from the Director of Finance. We have the BC Transit Annual Operating Agreement for 2021 and 2022 and the amendment regarding children under 12 years old. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So today we have a amendment to our annual operating agreement, BC Transit. It's for the next 6 months, but it's anticipated that this is going on into the future. So we are going to see a change in the fee structure to allow those 12 and under free bus fare when they go on to BC Transit. Obviously, this is a improvement and a service delivery improvement from senior levels of government to align with the policy of getting more green transportation and lowering the impacts of transportation to the environment. So good news is with this fee structure change, the senior levels of government will provide probably a $630 contribution to the fees that are foregone with this program.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for that. Are there any questions on this? Councillor Solda and then Councillor Corbeil.
It's not exactly a question, Madam Mayor, but I received a government announcement on this for 12 and under ride and posted it on Facebook earlier. So it's out there.
Great. That's wonderful. Councillor Corbeil.
Well, this is slightly off topic, but it's the other end of the spectrum. My dear old father-in-law, who will soon be 97 years old, on Father's Day was going to come to our house. And there were no buses, no handy darts operating on the weekend. The taxis, I guess, were broken down. Thankfully, there was a good-hearted citizen who happened to have a van that carried wheelchairs, was able to get him over to our house. But, you know, there's something wrong with the system when, you know, when you're bound to a wheelchair and you can't get out. And, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but I just want to bring that to everyone's attention that it is a big issue. And these are the people that built this country, and, you know, we're holding them hostage because of a lack of transportation sometimes.
Thanks for that, Councillor Corbeil. I think it's a very important issue. And as you know, Handy Dart is a service provided by the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District. Councillor Corbeil and myself are the council appointees there for the current year. And it's a topic of conversation there. Director Cote has been quite an advocate for making sure that we are able to keep that level of service going, and they have expanded it over the last couple of years. But I think there's still a shortfall that we're seeing in our community. And when other services, you know, are down or experiencing issues, then we feel that even more. So Councillor Paulson and I would be happy to bring that to the regional district. We do talk about transit frequently there, so we can pass that along. And I really think that as our community continues to change, these services are going to have to continue to grow and adapt as well. And that's an example of one that's very important that we shouldn't be overlooking. So we will pass that along. I do think on the children under 12 in our community, I think that although this is a province-wide initiative, as the community with one of the highest child poverty rates in the province, I think this is an incredibly important initiative to make sure that all of the children in our community have access to transportation regardless of their family situation. So I think this is a fantastic initiative to be coming forward, and we will not let the senior population be left aside. We'll bring those comments to the regional district as well. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Andrew, you probably don't have this information. I should have asked you ahead of time. But do we have any kind of numbers on the number of children under 12 that ride the bus and the number of children like 12 to 18? I'm just thinking that maybe if there's not that many, maybe there's something we can look at, maybe our next budget, and supporting the students between 12 and 18 as well, because that would help them get to jobs and get them to school and get them to extracurricular activities. But I'm just wondering how many and how much they actually would pay.
Great question.
Yes, it is. Madam Mayor, I think to Councillor Haggard, we don't have that detailed information. Obviously, with this change, there was an estimate that was done, and that was based on the capital region as far as where we'd get with the numbers for this. So what I can do is I can see if we can get that information with those in that 12 to 18 range and follow up. So I will do that.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard, would you mind reading this motion?
Okay. I'd like to move that the Director of Corporate Services be authorized to execute the BC Transit 2021-2022 Annual Operating Agreement between the City of Port Alberni and British Columbia Transit as attached to this report and in effect from April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022 for the change to fee structure for children 12 and under.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Poon. Seeing no other comments, all in favor? None opposed, carried, thanks. And item number 6 from the Director of Finance as well, we have the Audit Committee Terms of Reference Amendments.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So with this staff report, there is a recommendation to move to a increase from the current twice every year for the Audit Committee meetings, moving back to what we originally had prior to the terms of reference being created last September. So Council can consider the increase in the terms of reference, and we can make those changes, and we would be able to undertake another meeting in September if Council agrees to this increase in the frequency of meetings.
Wonderful. Questions or comments from Council, or would someone like to read the motion?
Sorry.
Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to support this motion, I, along with Councillor Corbeil and Solda, when we went to twice a year, we had so much catching up to do on things that the meetings were twice as long, so we might as well meet quarterly when things are fresh in our mind. So I'd like to move the Council review and approve the Audit Committee terms of reference as amended, and said amendment increasing meeting frequency once every quarter.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Are there any other comments on this? Councillor Poon.
No comment.
Okay. Seeing no comments then on the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, carried. Okay, move on to item number 7 from the Development Planner. We have Development Permit number 2109. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Pricer, Development Planner, is unable to attend, so I'll give a brief highlight of this development permit. So as you said, this is Development Permit 2109, and the subject property is zoned light industrial, our M1 zone, and so forth is within our light industrial development permit area. The applicant is proposing to construct a mini storage facility with a caretaker's residence built into it. These units, so this property is just south of the Alberni Mall, and there's the Alberni Mall's main service lane that separates the Alberni Mall from this development. The project is proposed to consist of 3 single-story units accommodating about 158 storage units, and then there's a 2-story administration office and caretaker's residence towards the Broughton Street front of the property. The lighting has been looked at in regards to this property and confirmed that it will all be staying on site, so it won't spill off onto any adjacent properties. It's been designed, the layout has been designed to take some larger vehicle trucks and the turnaround capabilities. The main frontage along Broughton Street will be fenced and screened with cedar trees, and a landscaping security of about just under 20,000 will be taken to ensure that that landscaping is completed. As I indicated, this development would result in the construction of a mini storage and caretaker's residence. It is the plans that have been submitted are consistent with our industrial development permit area guidelines, and city staff support the issuance of this permit for 4924 Broughton Street, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions that council may have.
Wonderful. Are there questions from council? Seeing none, Councillor Paulson, would you like to read the motion?
I would like to move that council authorize the issuance of development permit number 21-09, and that the Director of Corporate Services be authorized to sign the permit, including the development plans as shown on Schedule B, prepared by Bowerman Excavating Limited, issued for 4924 Broughton Street and dated July the 20th, 2021, subject to the City of Port Alberni receiving the required landscaping security in the amount of $19,860.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. Any further comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Item number 8 from the Director of Engineering and Public Works, we have Connect the Keys, update and resource requirements, and I will call on our CAO for this report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, the report in your agenda package outlines the matter before us. It's to update Council regarding the progress and the Connect the Keys pathway and expenditures to date, and to seek your direction regarding engagement of third-party resources going forward toward completing the public engagement phase, which is where we are ready to go next. I'll draw your recollection to on August 10th, 2020, Council passed a resolution directing that a grant application be submitted for funding for the project, and Council also modified the 5-year financial plan, and the current plan includes $7.2 million in spending for this project, coming from a combination of grants, reserves, and taxation expenditures in this year and the next 2 years. So we've been working on this project over the last 12 months, and the project progress to date can be outlined in 4 phases. I'll just go over those quickly. One, the grant submission phase, and in 2020, as I just mentioned, Council directed that we make an application. So in a very short period of time, we put a lot of resources into that, and staff and external resources, and we engaged 3 separate third parties to help us with that grant application. Spent $78,980 to enable us to make a grant application, and completed that phase and submitted the grant application on time, and we're still awaiting the outcome of that. We expect to know the results in late summer, early fall. So the next phase after that was the property owner engagement phase. So as you know, we made an application based on a route to which we had access because we had early support from a couple of property owners. And we've been working with those and other property owners to look to improve the routing of the potential pathway. And so through that phase in 2021, we needed the support of those 2 of those external consultants as well, and including another one, a road engineering firm. And so we spent $56,520 for that property engagement phase. The next phase was First Nation engagement. We had engaged with Huipachesset and Sasha First Nations in August and September of last year. Both nations were supportive of the project. Both provided letters of support for the grant application. And we committed to each of them that we would be back when we had some routing options that we could share with them. And we've done that. And we've asked both Sasha and Huipachesset to help us to appoint people to a working group, a Connect the Keys Pathway Advisory Working Group. And both nations have agreed to sit on that working group. And we envision that the working group will identify opportunities for appropriate Nuu-chah-nulth language, place names, and matters of cultural significance, all of which will or may influence the pathway route, and certainly the design and the signage. So there were no extra costs for that phase. We were able to use staff resources and council resources and materials that we had in hand from the previous phases. So we find ourselves now at phase 4 of 4 that I'm describing today. And that is the public engagement phase. We had informed the public that we would engage with them when we had routing options to share. And we find ourselves at that phase now. So to do that, we're going to need some external resources. We have attached to this report a proposal from PWL Partnership Landscaping. It's a firm that we use through the first 3 phases of this project. We're very happy with their work. They are well versed in the area now, the project, the landscape. They've done all the work to date on this. They provided a proposal to undertake the public engagement process for us for a fee of $48,500. You'll also see in the report that we're anticipating about a $3,000 cost to engage a coordinating project engineer. We've been using John Manson, who's a professional engineer, and he's been very helpful in coordinating the efforts of internal and external resources. So in terms of analysis, the city does not have the internal resources adequate to undertake the work of landscape architecture or communications or project coordination during this public engagement phase. And we will need to rely on the support of external resources. And the city has committed, as I said, to community members that public input into the project would be sought once we had identified a number of options for different routes, and we are there now. And the city has been working with PWL Partnership Landscaping and John Manson, both of whom have provided professional, timely, and cost-effective work. Certainly during the grant application phase, both firms prioritized this, and without their help, we would not have been successful in getting that application on time. So I can tell you that staff believe that we engaging the same contractors would result in continuity of work, timely completion of the public engagement phase of the project, and will draw the least amount on city staff resources. It might be that this realizes the cost savings, although we can't say that because we're not suggesting taking tenders or proposals unless council directs that way. If we undertake the public engagement phase starting soon, if we complete that fall of 2021, we believe that we can undertake the concept design work and engineering and could be ready for construction in early 2022. Council, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Council, are there questions? Councillor Corbeil.
Are we aware if this group has been involved in any other multimodal pathway projects?
Madam Mayor, I can't speak to it directly. If you want, we can look at their proposal, which is attached to the staff report. They do make reference in their proposal. We didn't ask them to list specific references, but they do make reference, I believe on the first page or two, that they are practiced in this. When we engaged PWL, it was under the advice of John Manson, who was our coordinating engineer. Subsequent to that, when we hired Rob Dickinson, Rob has a history of working with these folks. So Rob, if you're still in the meeting, can you make comment on your experience working with PWL or the principals?
Yes, just briefly, I've known Michelle, I think, for 20 years now and worked with her on a variable amount of projects when I lived down in Victoria. She has extensive experience, I know, on her behalf, and I know PWL just from Googling their firm. Likewise, there's a lot of other of the players over at PWL have extensive experience with this type of project. And I think they bring a little bit of experience once with smaller cities like ourselves, but also Vancouver. So they can give us a good spectrum of what we're looking for in this.
Thanks for that, Rob. Other questions from council? Okay, would somebody like to read the motion? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that council direct that the professional services of John S. Manson, PENG, and PWL Partnership Landscaping be secured to assist in completion of the public engagement phase of the Connect the Keys Pathway project.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no other comments, before I call the question, I just want to thank staff for all the work that's gone into this already. I know I've had the benefit of seeing a lot of it as we worked through some of the land ownership pieces, but a few years ago or a couple of years ago when we created our strategic plan, council asked that we put resources into this project and that we really we try to make it happen in a reasonable amount of time, because it has been a project that the community has been talking about since the Outlook 2020 report, which I think was done in 2002. So it's a concept that's been talked about for at least a couple of decades, and we wanted to turn it into a reality. And I think that I'm looking forward to the public engagement on this, because we have gone from a concept and an idea to a real plan and hopefully a path that we will be constructing in the near future. So I know that just getting to the point of having that grant application ready took a great amount of resources, and really personally looking forward to now getting to go to the public and hopefully hearing positive results on our grant application soon. So with that, I will call the question on the motion. All in favor? None opposed? Carried. Thank you. And we will move on to the last report out of this section. Item number 9 from the Director of Corporate Services. We have returned to in-person meetings of council. It's just a report for information. Twyla.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And as you alluded to at the beginning of the meeting, City Council is positioning themselves to return to in-person meetings for your next regular meeting, September 7th. So just a little bit of background. In response to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, a province-wide state of emergency was declared. It was during that time that a number of public health and ministerial orders were issued. In particular, on June 17th, the order issued at that time granted local governments the ability to conduct their meetings electronically. And this also addressed the time that public were no longer permitted to attend open meetings of council. So July 1st, BC moved to step 3 of its restart plan, and the provincial state of emergency was lifted. With the lifting of that state of emergency, that automatically triggers the expiry of the ministerial order M192, which will officially retire September 28th. So City Council can continue to conduct its meetings just as they have been now right up until September 28th. But we anticipate being in step 4 if we continue down the path of BC's restart plan on September 7th. So pre-COVID, there would be no requirement for council to make any changes to their procedure bylaw if they choose to just go and function as they typically did, effective September 7th. If council does wish to entertain opportunities to have electronic participation or a hybrid model, it will require that council looks at its procedure bylaw to make changes. If that's some direction that council would like to give to staff, we would prepare a report for council's consideration at meetings in September that would address some of those items, keeping in mind that it's still best practices that electronic meetings should not be a substitute for full in-person meetings. So with that said, again, this report is just provided for information. We will communicate with the general public that it's council's intent to return in person with public available and permitted to attend on September 7th.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from council? Councillor Paulson.
Yeah, it just has to do with the hybrid models and really more around our current capabilities. I know how many times have we had a councillor actually call into a meeting in the past and it just didn't work. So maybe just to look at how we could improve those hybrid meetings, either to include that councillor visually and electronically, or at least improving our ability to have audio at the very least. I can't believe how many times we've actually lost a councillor, tried to redial them, those sorts of things. So I think after COVID, probably there are more hybrid models available, and might be just something that we want to look into. Just my thoughts.
Absolutely. I think as somebody who had to call into a number of council meetings after I had my last child, it was challenging for sure. The system was not well set up for it. The call-in model is not really very effective. And that said, I think we also want to make sure that we don't have half our council coming in by Zoom, because I think we would lose a lot of just the responsibility of what our jobs are if we continued in that matter. So I think it's a great option for when we need it, but I do think we want to make sure we all make our best effort to be in person whenever possible, and we use it as a last resort rather than a preference. So I think that there's some, at minimum, there will be some adjustments likely required to the kind of technology that we have in our council chambers, if we wanted to have people join by Zoom or other video platforms. So we probably want to let staff give some consideration to that. But I think Zoom and this time of COVID has been a great learning experience for all of us to just get more comfortable with these different platforms. And it now hopefully will be a great way for us to move forward and be a bit more hybrid, and possibly for some of our delegations as well, that don't need to come, travel hours or come on ferries or fly over for a 10-minute presentation. If we can have a format that works for them to join us electronically, then we can all be a lot more efficient. I think I saw a hand from Councillor Solda and Councillor Washington.
My take on Zoom, Madam Mayor, I hate Zoom, but as everybody knows, I think the public expects us to be in person. And yes, there might be the odd time you might be in the hospital or out of the hospital, and that I understand that. But I think the public expects us to be around. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree completely. And our current procedures bylaw allows councillors to participate electronically, but it does put a max number of times that they are able to participate electronically by. I think maybe it's 3 in a row or something like that. And we might want to look at that. I think it's largely up to us to ensure that we are using it as a last resort. And again, like I said, not as a preference or a choice. I think our main responsibilities as councillors is to be accountable and there for the public, and our council meetings is the main, first and foremost place where that responsibility exists. So I think we all need to put that onus on ourselves to be in person whenever possible. And electronic participation is a great alternative for when there are reasons that we can't be there. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Only concern I would have is I welcome everything back to the way it was. Are we going to put some limitation on number of seats in the gallery, or options for masks or some kind of thing so they can protect themselves from each other when they're sitting a lot closer than we do?
Twyla, are you able to speak to the setup?
Sure. So right now under step 3, and that's where we currently are, it still speaks to the 50-person capacity, the maximum. When we move to step 4, those capacities are removed, and even to the point where masks are not required, and it will just be a personal choice. So I can certainly see that the chambers would invite those who wish to wear their mask. They're more than welcome to do so, but it's not going to be a requirement once we find ourselves in step 4. We don't intend to jam everybody into the room, and we'll space accordingly. And I guess we'll just have to look at what that looks like once we return, and the volume of perhaps members of the public that wish to join. We also will look at utilizing the committee room if we do move forward with a hybrid model that would allow public to sit in the room across the way and still see the screen, and council conduct their business in that room. So it could allow for that additional capacity and comfort level.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think at this point we're all feeling zoomed out, but thank goodness we have had Zoom and the technology to enable us to help carry on the business of the city. 5 years ago, we wouldn't have had this kind of technology, so I don't know what we would have done, but thank goodness we've had it. I would like to move to some kind of hybrid model, the possibility because I think everyone on this council has been away at one time or another, whether it's due to illness or maybe we've been on holidays, but we still want to make sure that we're engaged. I wouldn't just miss a council meeting and stay home and ask to be up with Zoom, but I have been on holidays, but I still want to be able to voice my opinion and be part of the meeting. So I think that's important that we do look into some kind of hybrid model for those cases when we are away, or maybe we're home, the reason may be. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And just for additional clarification, again, our current procedures bylaw does already allow electronic participation, but we currently utilize phone in for that. And I think that council can likely appreciate that we have better technology available to us now. So it's certainly preferable to be able to see someone's face rather than having them, as Actually, my favorite was when Shaw actually zoomed in on the phone when whoever was on the phone was speaking. So I think the public and certainly council would appreciate to be able to see who is electronically participating. I'm not sure if we need an update to our procedures bylaw for that or not. I think we certainly need an update to the technology that we have in our council chambers, because right now we would, for instance, with chairing the meeting, we only have screens behind council. So we're not able to see, I wouldn't be able to see if someone was putting their hand up on a screen behind us. So I think there's some small updates we could make to our technology to better assist us being able to utilize that option when we need to. Okay. So if there's no more questions, this was just for information. I think it'll continue to be a topic of conversation, and staff will keep looking at any updates that we need to make, but we will move on for today. We'll go to bylaws, and the first item is Solid Waste Collection and Disposal Bylaw 5030-2021. And this is just a third reading of the Solid Waste Collection Bylaw. Councillor Solda, would you like to read this one?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move that the Solid Waste Collection and Disposal Bylaw 5030-2021 be read a third time.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. Are there any questions on the bylaw? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And item number 2, we have, I believe, third and final reading of the Sewer Connection and Regulation Bylaw and Waterworks Bylaw amendments. Councillor Corbeil, would you like to read this one?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that Sewer Connection and Regulation Bylaw, Amendment number 14, Bylaw number 5034, be now finally adopted, signed by the Mayor and Corporate Officer, and numbered 5034.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Paulson. Any questions or comments on final reading of this one? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried. And if you'd like to continue with the next one.
Further, I move that Waterworks Bylaw Amendment number 12, Rate Changes Bylaw number 5035, be now finally adopted, signed by the Mayor and Corporate Officer, and numbered 505.
Great. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Any final comments on this one? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 3 under bylaws from the Director of Development Services and Deputy CAO, we have the proposed official community plan bylaw and zoning bylaw amendments. Welcome back, Scott.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the City of Port Alberni has received a development application for 4905 Cherry Creek Road, as you indicated, requesting amendments to both the official community plan and zoning bylaw. The applicant has constructed a first phase of this development, which includes 5 building strata units in 2 separate buildings. And the property owner has been receiving a significant amount of interest from potential tenants or potential purchasers of strata units. However, the majority of the interest has been more commercially oriented than industrial oriented. And so the owner is asking to change the OCP and zoning bylaw to potentially make available this commercial potential of the existing units and future units that could be constructed while still maintaining some and light industrial options. This application did go to the city's advisory planning commission in July 15th, and their minutes are attached, and they did recommend that city council proceed with these changes. So the proposal to the official community plan is to go from industrial to general commercial, and then to rezone from our M1 light industrial zone to our C3 service commercial zone. This would somewhat reduce the amount of land that's available for some light industrial uses. However, the C3 zone does allow for some of the same uses in the M1 zone. So that would be considered light industrial uses, as well as more opportunities for commercial related uses. In addition, a micro distillery is planned for one of the existing building units. Now, the current M1 zone does allow food and beverage processing, which would allow for the micro distillery production. but would have some limitation for that business. Like you wouldn't be able to have a bit of a lounge or tastings or things like that that are available in our microbreweries. So the city currently allows microbreweries in our C3 zone, our C7, our W1 zone as an accessory use in our C6 zone. Now, microbreweries and microdistilleries are very similar land uses, and staff are recommending that council consider a text amendment that would allow for would include the manufacturing of spirits and ciders to be made to the definition of microbrewery in our zoning bylaw. This would allow microdistilleries to be located in the same zones that currently allow microbrewing of beer. If this text amendment to the zoning bylaw is approved by council, any microdistillery will still be required to receive a provincial liquor production license from the province. So they still have that process that they're required to go to. So this change of use in the OCP from industrial to general commercial is consistent with the general area. That area is a mix of commercial uses with some light industrial and some office. So it's quite a mixed use there. There's no real nearby residential areas. So we do feel that this change would allow for still some light industrial uses, but make greater opportunity for commercial uses on this property. And by changing the definition of microbrewery to include microdistillery, i.e. the spirits, distillery of spirits and ciders, is closely related and accurate within our commercial zones that they're allowed. And so the city's planning department does support both the OCP and zoning bylaw amendments proposed for this property at 4905 Cherry Creek Road. And again, I would be pleased to answer any questions. And bylaws are on for first and second reading and setting of a public hearing date for council's consideration.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for that. Are there questions from council? Okay, Councillor Corbeil, go ahead.
Well, a comment more than anything, and I support this, but it's almost ironic that there's people looking for commercial land, or pardon me, industrial land and not commercial land, when we have Third Avenue that has half a dozen empty buildings and several large buildings that are improperly zoned. Scott, maybe when we go through this, you could give this person a map of Third Avenue, and when somebody's looking for commercial area, he could say, well, go down to Third Avenue and see what you can find, because it's the Johnson corridor keeps getting busier and the Third Avenue is less so.
Well, I wouldn't quite agree with that classification. Of Third Avenue is seeing a lot of improvement as well from new businesses opening up there. That said, these are beautiful, new, freshly built spaces, and Third Avenue has many rundown, old, derelict properties. So it's the amount of investment required from a small business to retrofit a building on Third Avenue is quite significant. And as we know, that certainly holds back new businesses being able to go in those spaces. I think it's excellent that that Colin is getting the interest that he is in these new spaces as commercial. But it was surprising for me as well, actually, that they haven't had more light industrial interest. And Scott, I don't know if you have anything you want to add there. I interrupted and jumped in, but.
Well, I guess it is a difficult thing when an investor and a builder is takes a risk and goes and makes a development and has an original plan that he thought this would be highly suitable to a number of light industrial uses, and it at this stage that hasn't come to as much of a focus as some of the commercial uses. Now, that being said, like microdistillery is commercial, but also somewhat light industrial. So I think what he's shooting for with the service commercial zone, the C3 zone, is trying to do a bit more of the best of both worlds as best as keepable. Keep some light industrial open, but allow for some more commercial activity. And I guess we have to be cautious that sometimes the market is looking for certain things, and if it's in the best community interest, we need to be open to that potential opportunity for consideration.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this? Okay. Councillor Washington, would you like to read these motions?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the official community plan amendment number 34 for 4905 Cherry Creek Road, Evans, bylaw number 5031, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
And that zoning map amendment number 45 for 4905 Cherry Creek Road, Evans, bylaw number 5032, now be introduced and read a first time.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Haggard. Seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
And that
Going.
zoning amendment number T28, definition microbrewery / micro distillery, bylaw number 5033, be now introduced and read a first time.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. Seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
And that official community plan amendment number 34 for 4905 Cherry Creek Road, Evans, bylaw number 5031, be read a second time.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. Seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried.
And the zoning map amendment number 45 for 4905 Cherry Creek Road, Evans, bylaw number 5032, be read a second time.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. Again, seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried, none opposed.
And that zoning text amendment number T28, definition microbrewery, micro distillery, bylaw number 5033, be read a second time.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. Seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. The last one.
And that the official community plan amendment number 34 for 4905 Cherry Creek Road, Evans, bylaw number 5031, zoning map amendment number 45 for 4905 Cherry Creek Road, Evans, bylaw number 5032, and zoning text amendment number T28, definition microbrewery, micro distillery, bylaw number 5033, be advanced to a public hearing on Monday, August 30th at 6 p.m. by video conferencing.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Corbeil. Seeing no comments, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you, Councillor Washington, for all of those. Okay, moving on to correspondence for action. We have two items. The first one is from the Port Alberni Community Action Team, resubmitted correspondence previously received by Council April 12th, requesting Council support by way of resolution supporting the Mom Stop the Harm petition. Proposed resolution is attached for Council's consideration and reference, Council direction being sought. Has everyone had an opportunity to read the proposed resolution? Okay, are there any questions or concerns with submitting this resolution? And would anybody like to, we don't need to read it out word for word. You can just move as written if you like.
I'll move.
Councillor Haggard, sorry, Councillor Poon, you're cutting out.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move on the resolution as written.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Solda, moved by Councillor Haggard. Any comments or questions on this? Okay, seeing none, before I call the question, I'd just like to thank the Port Alberni Community Action Team for all the work that they're doing right now. It is just incredible, the way that all of those groups are coming together to make up this group, and every time I sit in on one of the meetings, I'm just blown away by what they're able to get accomplished in a short period of time. So really appreciate all that they are bringing to a very difficult and challenging issue in our community. And with that, I will call the question on the motion. All in favor? Carried. None opposed. Thank you. And item number 2, we have a letter dated August 2nd, 2021 from the Western Vancouver Island Industrial Heritage Society requesting temporary road closures for the purpose of holding the Antique Truck and Machinery Show. And I will just say that my children are very excited that this show is on again this year. They always really enjoy this, and right away when I told them that the show was coming back this year, they asked if I got to pick my favorite truck again this year for the Mayor's Choice Award. So hopefully I get to do that, because apparently that's something that my kids look forward to at least. Would somebody like to read the motion as written?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to know if you're going to try and defend your title on the boat operator.
Oh, absolutely. If it's an option, nobody's going to take that from me. And I think I beat Councillor Corbeil last time. I can't remember. A couple people, whoever took part.
Yes, barely.
So yes, I will be defending my title if the opportunity is there. Councillor Haggard, would you like to read the motion?
Certainly, thank you. I'd like to move that Council authorize the temporary road closures of Dunbar Street between 7th and 9th Avenues as requested by the Western Vancouver Island Industrial Heritage Society for the purpose of holding the annual Antique Truck Machinery Show on Friday, September the 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. to Sunday, September 6, 2021 at 5 p.m., subject to the notification of emergency services in BC Transit, consultation with all affected businesses residents, implementation of a traffic plan, provision of standard liability insurance, COVID-19 safety plan, or communicable disease plan in accordance with provincial health orders and guidelines in effect at the time of the event, capacity attendees to align with BC Restart Plan guidelines if applicable.
Thank you. Is there a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Poon. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And on to the correspondence for information. We have the correspondence summary dated August 9th. Twyla.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So to summarize, we have 11 pieces of correspondence. We have everything ranging from a resident writing in about the use of rodenticides and Ministry Environment Climate Strategy, speaking about improvements to that use and application. We have about 4 items of correspondence from residents as it relates to the city's request for proposals with regards to city-owned lands for sale, noting that RFP is scheduled to close August 13th, and there will be a staff report coming forward to council that will speak to the responses and the other concerns that are being identified by those 4 letter writers. And over and above the 4 received and noted here on the summary, we have received additional communications from residents in the form of a petition, but did not meet the agenda deadline cutoff. So council will be in receipt of those at a future meeting date. We have a letter from a resident in the Ship Creek area, which has been supplemented by other residents in the area, speaking to the same concerns about traffic and vehicle noise. This item will be addressed at the TAC, Traffic Advisory Committee, and staff did do some research as if there were any complaints or concerns at the bylaw level when it came to noise. That has not been the case, but this information also has been shared with the RCMP as well in the interim. And then we have correspondence from Ministry of Environment speaking to the report that they released on the air quality report back on August 3rd. So members might be interested in reviewing that information. Correspondence from the City of Langley, and finally, Minister of Jobs, Economic and Recovery and Innovation, speaking to the Mass Timber Demonstration Program, which is now open again for applicants.
Thank you very much. Council, are there any items you'd like to speak to or ask questions about? Okay, seeing none, would somebody like to move receipt of the correspondence? Councillor
So moved,
Corbeil.
Madam Mayor.
Of course.
You moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Poon. Councillor Corbeil, did you have a question?
Well, actually, yeah, I wanted to talk about several of those of the correspondence. The one regarding Ship Creek Road, who's responsible for putting in the lines down the middle of the road? Is that us or is that highways? Does anyone know?
Madam Mayor, that's a city street. That would be city responsibility to the boundary.
Yeah, it definitely is in need of lineage. And when you go down Ship Creek Road from Anderson, there is a sign that talks about engine brakes, but it's past Cameron Drive. I don't know if it would make any sense to move that further up the road, but it is quite a ways down Ship Creek Road. The mass timber letter, when I read that, I wondered, is it too late to talk to the folks that are involved in the daycare center and potentially try to incorporate some funding into that? And lastly, the Forest Enhancement Society, a lot of the monies, and we're talking fairly large monies, 1.71 million, go to wildfire fuel breaks and the like. And I don't know who would apply for that, whether it's city or regional district, but it's something that we should consider. I know maybe our last meeting when Chief Owens spoke about having, I think, 3 members that are qualified to do assessments. You know, when you think about our town, it's pretty much, for the most part, surrounded by forest and forests that the city owns. And I think somebody somewhere should take a long, hard look at how we could get some of that funding to possibly, you know, clear some brush, plant some deciduous trees, thin whatever is necessary to prevent wildfire. Because someday, and you know, we're seeing it this summer, when it gets this hot, there's the potential for a fire that could be real devastating. So those are the 3 letters that I just wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, are you able to speak to the wildfire piece at all and that funding? And do you know if it's something that we are going after?
Madam Mayor, we'll work with the regional district. I'm not aware of what they've applied for, but we can come back if you want a future meeting, or if you just want us to have eyes on it, we'll make sure we do that.
I think it would be great. Just Councillor Corbeil might want an update back. I think I just want to know that it is something we are pursuing. And I know that the regional district has been applying for funding as it comes available. So I think just making sure that we continue to take advantage of those opportunities. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask the Director of Corporate Services if she can reply to the Ship Creek residents inquiry and let them know of the steps we've already taken, because there was another email received today wanting to know why we hadn't responded to his email. So if you could just reply, I'd much appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And if I may just expand on that, we are looking at making improvements to allow for some auto replies that residents will get, so they are then made aware of how their communications are being treated. And we typically like it to reach council in advance of providing anything specific, because council may have further direction to staff. So, but most certainly we will acknowledge receipt and indicate the steps that are being taken, and make those improvements with auto replies so people know what's happening with their communications.
Thank you very much, Twyla.
Thank you. Any other comments? And thanks, Councillor Corbeil, for the note on the line painting on Ship Creek as well. I saw our CAO making a note there, so I'm sure he'll be passing that along to be looked at. Okay, I think we've moved receipt. It's been moved and seconded of the correspondence. All in favor? Carried. None opposed. Thank you. No report from in camera. We'll move on to council reports. Are there any items councillors would like to report on specifically? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to new business. I have one item of new business, and it's really just looking for an update. A while ago, we had requested an update and some action to be taken to explore the intersection of 10th and Dunbar. As people will remember, in our community, we had a death at that intersection of a young boy who was riding his bike. And following that, we had some correspondence from concerned members of the community, and we did direct staff to just bring back a report with some options and any recommendations, and not options specifically, recommendations. I'm just wondering from our Director of Engineering if there's any update on that work. And Rob, if you don't have an answer today, that's fine. Just looking for an update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just give you a quick update. Actually, we on two fronts. One is regarding that at 10th and Dunbar, we have actually completed preliminary design. And what we've done is circulated amongst all the engaged professionals, such as RCMP, Community Policing, ICBC, as well as interested associations, such as Cycle Alberni. And now that we've received all their feedback, what we're doing is pulling that report together, and it should be on council for the September 7th meeting.
Wonderful.
The second part of that update is regarding the 20 intersections we were reviewing that McElhaney is looking at. Is they've looked at the 20, they have determined the 20, they've actually isolated the 15 that we're then going to look at for recommended short and long-term countermeasures. And right now they're doing all those countermeasures and then looking at conceptual designs for those intersections as well. So they're hoping to have that done in time for the second meeting of September, but definitely for the first meeting in October.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate that update, and glad to hear there's progress being made on that. Look forward to the next steps. Okay, thanks, Rob. Cindy, sorry, Councillor Solda.
Yeah, I would like to get an update on the squash court. When is the deadline for them to start doing some work on the outside of their building? I can't remember. Maybe staff could give us an update.
Thank you. Twyla, do you have that information handy? I believe so I'm not sure if there would be a quick coming up deadline, because it was just maybe a couple months ago that we approved their development permit.
Yes, and I know our Director of Development Services, our Deputy CAO, is in this meeting, Scott, and I believe it's 2 years from the date of issue, but
2 years.
Correct me if I'm wrong, or it could be, yeah.
That's so, Madam Mayor, through to Councillor Solda. So they can apply and start their building permit right now after they receive their development permit. A development permit is valid for 2 years. So if they don't start the project within 2 years, then they would have to come back and get another development permit from council. But I can check with the building inspector, and we can inquire with the consultant and the owner about when their intention is to start. And then we can bring that back to council.
Oh, I thought it was sooner than that. Sorry, Madam Mayor.
No, that's fine. It's a great question. And I think that if we don't see progress, it might be worth a conversation about bylaw enforcement in the meantime, as this building has been in its current state for far too long. I don't know what our ability would be when there's an approved development permit, but it would be worth at least a conversation. If it gets to that point, hopefully not. I think that the owner has shown good intention with submitting the development permit application. That's now been approved. It's not unreasonable to wait a few months after a development permit is approved to begin construction. So at this point, I am optimistic that work will begin shortly, but if not, then council will likely request more information on next steps. Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Solda. Councillor Washington.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question to Mr. Smith on sort of are all building permits good for a duration of 2 years?
So development permits are valid for 2 years, and actually, yes, building permits are valid for 2 years, although you must start the work within a certain amount of time, or you can apply for an extension. So our building bylaw allows for someone who's building to apply for an extension once they've received a building permit. But you have up until 2 years to complete the permit under the building permit process.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Just one more question. I believe I know the answer, but the public has asked me. We have properties like on Johnson Road. There's a house that has grass really, really high and hasn't been mowed, and the upkeep, some other properties in the city that are very visual in the main streets and that. How is that taken care of through bylaw?
I think the first step is to make sure that when people are reaching out to us with these concerns, that we are encouraging them to phone bylaw and make sure they are starting a formal file on that. Often people will reach out to us for an update on something without actually reaching out to bylaw. It makes it challenging for our bylaw officers to do their jobs when they're not hearing of the concerns. So Twyla, I'm not sure if there's any more information that you'd like to add or add context to with Cindy's question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, it's exactly as you have outlined. Please encourage individuals to contact our bylaw enforcement office directly, and they can log those complaints, go through the process, get the information that's required, and then have the means to be able to take actions or follow up.
And that's what I've told them, but I just wanted the public to know out there how to do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll move on to question period, which is an opportunity for the public to ask questions of council. Twyla, are there any questions today?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm just double checking. No questions received. Thank you.
Thank you. Then would somebody like to move adjournment?
I'll move adjournment.
Moved by Councillor Poon, seconded by Councillor Paulson. All in favor? Carried. Thank you.